Hey everybody, this is Dark Guardsman. We're back with another update video. So we've got a few things to cover, not a tremendous amount, so I'm hoping this video will be short, but probably won't. So the main thing to cover is we've got several new mod releases. We've got the Men Satchel. This is a really simple mod that was commissioned to provide a kind of a bag, more or less, similar to backpacks you see in a ton of other mods. That gives you safe storage slots that if you end up dying, the slots end up carrying over with you and end up actually giving you a chance to protect certain items. Now, this has been made to be highly configurable, so you can configure the number of slots you have. There is some tiers available. It doesn't work the same way I thought it was, so if people who have seen the original description of this saying you could add tiers, I was wrong about that. It turns out that we have to manually add the tiers due to the rendering system. This will eventually be fixed in the future and you'll be able to dynamically add tiers for your mod pack. With the tiers being there, you can define what the slot count of each tier is, the drop rate of the bag. So you can actually say that tier 1 has a 50% chance of dropping, so when you die, you don't always get the bag. You can also define what items stay in the bag. So if you die and you say, okay, cobblestone is never going to keep with you, so it's just going to shoot everywhere. You can also define what can be inserted into the bags. You can also change how world settings are done. So there's tons and tons of options available for this mod to give you the opportunity to do whatever you really want with your mod pack, including cosmetically change it, of course. But you'll have to use a resource pack for that. We may do more additions to this in the future, have a little bit more dynamic to it. And I do have a plan to introduce a lot of more varieties of bag styles and items and everything else we can do with as this kind of interesting concept to work with. The other mod we did make that has been released for both 1.12 and 1.13, I need to actually put some betas up here for it, but I need to test it a little bit more. This is Grimill, very simple mod. Somebody asked for this really quick. Nothing really amazing. It's bone meal that works on first try. I'll kind of show this off in Minecraft Client here shortly after we get through it. Sheet metal was another mod that's been released. Now this one we actually made like 6 months ago, so you've probably seen a video or stream about it before. I just now got around to finishing the code review of it and actually releasing it. For those who don't know how our process kind of works with this whole entire board here and kind of what mods we work on. So before we even started the bounty board, so the bounty board is only like 3 months old. It's very new to the whole process. It's kind of what we're doing now that I have resources available that I can now pay developers to make mods. We're taking advantage of that and trying to get as many mods out the door as possible. Before this, how we did mods is we would come up with an ideal, so we basically throw it in a box. We would then kind of work on that ideal a little bit. Then we would make the mod, so we would get down to like creation over here. And then it would sit there for a while, we would code review it, we would test it, we would do stuff with it, then we release the mod. So we're doing the same process here, so this is why some mods take forever to get released, is that sometimes we forget the code review, and we never get around to releasing the mod. So that's what happened to sheet metal. So we got this mod done like 6 so months ago. We can actually probably check just how badly I messed this one up. This is a really cool mod that we did, and I just completely forgot about it. So let's pull commits up. Yeah, so this mod was made like middle of last year. So I got done with it in July, and then this one just kind of sat there. Because what reason I never, I think, released it is because we never added spawning or loot tables to it. And then that eventually got done, and then it sat a little bit longer, and then I eventually released it. So that one's released. It's really simple mod that allows us to grow metal wool on sheeps. Again, this is one of those mods that was made because we were laughing about it. We're like, why not? Let's make a mod. So we made that really simple mod. Now there's been a few other releases that have actually gone through here, and there's some other stuff that is in progress. So there's been some bug fixes for various mods. I don't actually know which ones. I think we just released red arrows for Breadstone. I think this has actually been released. Let me check the update dates. I'm going to say no, unless that one right there is what I'm thinking of. That actually might be the release of the Breadstone arrows. I'll have to check that in here later, get it tested, and push it to beta. Really simple concept. I wanted some Breadstone arrows for dispensers mainly. We'll probably work on that more. Collar chest is still being worked on, still not done with that. Elevators was actually one of the other ones I think we just released. Let me check this. Now with this one, a lot of people have pointed this out already. There's only one comment in here, but I've got quite a few DMs about it. Yes, this is almost identical to Open Blocks Elevators. Now I didn't realize this mod existed when I actually requested there be a mod made, or I probably wouldn't have requested because this is more or less what I wanted made. And it turns out not only did it exist, but it's an extremely popular mod, so go for me for not checking. It still probably wouldn't have mattered tremendously because the reason why we kind of made the elevator mod, which let me pull this back up. And if I can find it. Problem having too many mods, you have to look through this. So one of the reasons we made this is we do want to have a lot more customization than a lot of mods actually do offer. So we want to have a lot of custom audio. Right now we're using vanilla audio. There was a custom audio effect in this mod originally when it was made, that was kind of like a magic-y zing sound. I didn't quite like it, so I disabled it. Those will be introduced back in. I wanted some failure audio, so give you some better feedback and errors. I wanted to add an XP cost, which I just finished, I think, Friday. No, Thursday. I finished Thursday with XP's cost. That has actually been released. That's that build right there. So now you can define that you want to consume XP. You can not only consume a flat cost, you can also consume by distance, so you can actually kind of balance it out. I'm not 100% sure at how good that algorithm is, because Minecraft does not offer a good way to consume XP. You can consume entire levels, but you cannot consume fractional. So we implement some code. It should, in theory, work, but keep an eye on it. If it becomes unstable, make sure you report a bug. We also want to add a tremendous amount of configs to this, so that way we can do whatever we want in terms of mod pack style. So we do plan to release several mod packs. In each mod pack, we may want to change how the elevators behave. We may also want to toy with them. And on top of that, we kind of built this as a prototype for future mods. We want to build a lot more mods that go around this content. I used to release a teleporter mod back in the early days before Minecraft got officially released, so the alpha beta days of Minecraft. I used to make teleporter mods. I actually had a couple really good ones, and not only can I say I've had these, I actually still have pictures left over from this. So let's go dig for these. I don't have a lot of pictures, by the way, of older projects, so people asking me like, why you have pictures for this one but not this other project, is because I didn't really keep a lot. So like, I have some resin induction pictures for people who are still asking, but you can see that folder is rather plain compared to some of these other folders. But this is the old mod. This is one of my second or third mods I ever produced. It was an addition of making a Forge version, and let me rephrase it because Forge wasn't released around then. This was, I think, done via ModLoader. So the very, very early predecessor to what eventually became the Forge ModLoader. So they used to have plugins for Bucket, or at the time I think it was HMod, that had signs that you could put names on and you could teleport around. I was like, hey, I want to have a nice 3D sign system, so I built these signs. This was one of the first things I got introduced with signs. You right click it, it teleports you to some location. Very simple, had a UI that you put coordinates into, and that's all you did. It was not a very complicated mod. It would show you, I think, red when it was set up, and it would be black when you still need to configure it. Then we also had some pads, so you had a receiver pad and a teleport pad. These had some kind of configuration to them you could teleport with. And then we had a teleportation circle, which was one of the last things that ever got added to the mod. This was a multi-block structure that you could build as big as you wanted. And you would get up on it and you would stand on it for a couple seconds to teleport you. It was basically a magic teleportation circle that you see in a lot of games have back then. Really simple mod. We are thinking about bringing this back, and keep in mind when people are looking at this, I made this in like 2012. So it's 2019, 7-year-old mod. So when you look at the graphics and you're like, that looks horrible. Keep in mind back then we really didn't have anything in terms of tools to build models. These were made in Techni, I believe, is what these were made in. But yeah, so we had that. So we may be bringing that back. So we have this mod which we built. This will act as a basis for additional mods, because the way the code is built up for this, it actually doesn't really care what the blocks are. The code for this is built on a very simple concept of teleportation. So it only difference is that it finds that teleport pad for you. So if you tell it to find the teleport pad a little bit differently, you could make some really cool little mechanics. You could teleport from point A to point B. We could teleport horizontally, vertically. Right now we're doing vertically. We can teleport diagonally. So there's a lot of different blocks we could make. The cool thing with this as well, I don't know if OpenBlocks' code, actually I've never looked at OpenBlocks code. These don't have tile entities for them, so they're just up and down keybind events, so these are very nice performance-wise. The aesthetics for them, I believe, look better than OpenBlocks in my opinion. Oh, I do not have an image. We'll show these off in a second, what they look like. I have shown these off in a previous video, and everything else. So let's actually get to that before I make this video too long. So let's show off the mods in kind of order we talked about them. So we got, actually let's not, Men Satchel will show last. So we've got the sheet metal kind of things. Now these look exactly like sheep. So here, take a look at a sheep, look at their textures and everything else. Here's what these look like. These do use the newer style of texture, I believe. Morton, who made these, decided he wanted to use, I think, the 113 textures. So here's the sheep metal. Now when you do spawn them, they do randomize. You can make child ones, so they work just like sheep. I believe they even identify sheep to some extent. You can more than likely use these with anything else. They do work with normal shears, I know for sure. I have not tested them with automation, so we'll get to that. They do randomly spawn in the world. The spawn rate is incredibly low. It is configurable, though. You cannot configure per type yet. We may look at changing that in the future. So if you go to mod options, and let me go ahead and see if I can find this. Sheet metal. Oh, I forgot to put an MC info file. So there's a config for this. I will fix this here later. It's one of those really weird quirks about how Forge behaves. You have to have an info file for your mod that you have config. So Grimill, very simple. You can basically use it just like bone meal. The difference with this is how this kind of works is we try basically 1,000 times with one item to grow things, and if it grows, it'll grow a tree. Be warned, you can kind of get yourself stuck and killed with this. It should work on any crop, just like bone meal should work on. It's a little flaky. We have fixed bugs with it because the API system that allows the growing to work for bone meal was never built to instantaneously grow. So you may run into situations where certain kind of modded crops will not work. All the vanilla ones I have tested to function. We did fix some issues with trees. Trees do not work just fine. This is not a mod we really care too much about though. So. And saying that, yeah, we probably won't put a huge amount of effort into it. So, last one really quickly, Men Satchel, and then I'll show off the elevators. So this one, you can't open it in creative tab. There's a bug, so we just disabled it in creative mode to deal with things. Right now, how kind of creative stuff works is that it only works while... It works on client side, mainly. So this is why it doesn't quite work with the Satchel. I want to say there is a way around this. I haven't looked into it too deeply because I did have another mod developer work on this, so what he's telling me versus what is actual reality may be two different things due to experience. I'll look at it. But you can put stuff in it just like you would with any other modded bag. I may work on making this look a little bit aesthetically nicer. Right now we kind of go from the corner over because you can expand and contract the number of slots you have. The version I am testing with does not have the tiered versions in it. That is on the GitHub. It has not been released yet. I pulled this directly off of the released version, so we're looking at exactly what you guys will see that is actually on CurseForge. If I actually do die, so if I get killed, which I'm just going to use the kill command, it should work with any death event. I don't know how this behaves with gravestones. You have been warned for the most part. But it will actually give it back to me. The way this does work is a little flaky in my opinion, so I am going to probably have to go back and take a look at it. It does actually wait a couple seconds after you respawn and then throws the bag at you. It does work. I have tested it, have yet to have it break on me, so the developer did a really good job with it. But obviously I want to spend a lot more time on this because this is a mod I do believe will be really nice. One of the big things I want to get done eventually. Right now this tells you what is contained via chat right here. I want to do a hover over thing. I've seen this done in a couple other mods where you hover over and it would show you a micro inventory. So we may look at doing that. We may actually also look into doing other things with this, like telling you how full it is. I know we do plan to do enchantments for the bags. So one of the things that would be possible in the future is you'll be able to enchant any item in a bag and have it retain with you for at least one use. The idea behind the enchantment is you enchant it and it will consume a tick off that enchantment. So maybe you have Bag of Binding 5, and then you die once, and it turns to Bag of Binding 4, and you die again, it turns into 3 and 2, and then 1 is gone. And then at final death, it doesn't come back with you. So if we can get that enchantment to work, we could start putting that on other pieces of equipment and having that stay with you. So that's something we really want to work on that. We also want to work on a lot more customization with it to, of course, give mod packs the most features possible. This is a really, really interesting concept that I want to play with. I haven't seen a huge amount of mods do this type of concept. And then, of course, we can branch this off and do other things. Like, one of the things I might want to do is do, like, a missile that when you die, it flies to you and delivers your armor back to you. Something that maybe picks up all your items and sticks them in a gravestone for you. Obviously, there's tons of gravestone mods, but we can play with the functionality and add tons of features with it. Expand on it. Maybe something to collect your XP, etc. Anyways, the last thing I'm going to do is elevators and show how these work. So, personally, I like the textures of these. I don't know how these compare to the open block stuff. I really don't know. So this has been released, and they work exactly like it. So I think the version I have the config set up so that way you have the color match. This is one of the things I don't know if the open block version offers, but I actually requested this one specifically because I felt this would actually be useful. So if you match colors, you teleport to it. If the colors don't match, which I don't know what happened there, then it won't teleport. It should play an audio sound. Let me check my audio. Get that way up top. Okay, so the version we have up on the GitHub then, or not on the GitHub, but the actual release version doesn't have the audio effects. So it should play an error audio if it can't find anything. But it does do color matching. Now the reason for the color matching, the reason I wanted to do this, is I could stack through an elevator shaft and have these. And let me check the options real quick. There actually is quite a few options with this, so this is probably why this isn't working. Allow spawning must be requires clear line of sight. Let me turn that to false. There we go. So I can teleport around. So what I could even do with this is say I wanted to hide an elevator inside my elevator shaft. I wanted to put something like this. I have to move that a little bit. So I want to have an elevator shaft that maybe takes me to a floor underneath my floor, or maybe I want to use this as a maintenance elevator or something. But I want to keep it hidden, and I want to be able to use the main shaft. I could teleport up, walk over here, do what I want to do, come back down, do this. I may be able to go down a floor, go back up, which is really, really, really useful. There's a lot of application I could see for something like this working. And of course you have 16 callers, so you can stack 16 times. And for servers who really don't care, so if you have a mod packer server, you don't want to do that, or you're just using this locally, come down over here, must be same caller, could turn that off. You could turn off allow spawning. This is one I didn't even ask for, but of course I told the guy who was commissioning it I wanted it to work like the old open blocks from 1.7.10. So we did that. You can also control the spacing right here. This is how I can tell this is not the latest version, is because there's also a max spacing feature in the current version, and then there's the XP cost, which I can't show, of course, because we set the spacing. Or set the stuff isn't there, etc. But now with that turned off, I'm going to go to the purple one, I'm going to go to the next purple one, and I'm going to go to the white one. So you could actually have a lot of fun with these. So if you don't want to have that, you can also then start color coding your floors so you know what floors you're on. So you actually then could do that. You could do a lot of other features with them. I want to make a larger mod at some point with this that would then have a lot of control and customization, including manual linking of teleporters, customization of how teleporters work, redstone functionality so you can shut off floors, maybe the ability to select your floor by, I don't know, holding shift and then pressing 3 and then you go up 3 floors or something like that. So there's a lot of stuff I want to play around with this because there's not a huge amount of mods that actually spend a lot of dedicated focus to just helping you get between floors. And of course I build really large bases sometimes, and having stuff like this is very useful. A lot of people like to settle for just being able to do this where you just go up, 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 up. That's annoying for me. I have to hit my space bar for it, which for those who don't know, I have nerve damage in my hands, so hitting the space bar repeatedly actually does hurt. But you could do this and keep going down. I might even do a system where if you hold down the shift bar or hold up the space bar, and maybe after a couple minutes you just go straight to the top by pressing it once. That might happen. We'll definitely look into that. But that's all I got for updates. So we don't get any updates on the bigger mods. The plan is to work on Atomic Sight sometime today. We also plan on getting Item Sponge out, which is one of the other mods made by the same guy who did the elevators. This one's really cool. It's basically like a magnet mode feature, so it magnet modes items to you. The difference is it has a sponge that then absorbs the item. You have it in your inventory. It will pull items in your inventory into it. The items do have to match a preset item. So if you only want to pick up, say, stone, it will only pick up stone. You set the item by doing crafting recipe with it, so I'll show this all off after I get finished because I'm in the process of code reviewing. I've actually got to deprecate some stuff, clean it up. One of the things with the code review process, since I didn't explain that a lot in detail previously, is that part of code review is we optimize the mods down a lot. So we get a lot of different developers working on mods. They all have their different styles, they all have their different methodologies, and I condense them all back down to one methodology, so we're all doing the mod the same way. I also get rid of extra code and stuff, I clean things up, I correct for errors. It's a lot of basic things, and it's nothing against the developers who work on these mods, it's just I have a style of doing things, and I also like to see these mods as small as possible. Like there was a whole bunch of GUI stuff in here that wasn't necessary, I got rid of it. There's some stuff over here, he pulled some code in from Chicken Bones. This stuff isn't used, like if you actually hit Control B in here, I can find that it was only used in one spot, and if I get rid of that right there, and I come over here again, hit Control B, we find out that's not used at all. I can now delete that. And if I hit build and rebuild, watch as it tells me that that class is never used. That's the whole part about the code review process and cleanup. We get a lot of unused stuff. Quite a few mod developers I've worked with have the habit of putting a lot of helpers in there that you turn around and you don't need the helpers. There's a lot of things with problems with excessive usage of code. So you see like the vector 3 thing is actually used in here, but I might come in through here and like, look, that's a distance function. So it's really cool that he's using a vector 3 library to do that. However, I believe there is some building code into Mojang's code itself for Minecraft that does distance automatically for you. I believe it is entity dot should be get distance, and I can get the distance to another entity. So in this case it would be a sponge. So I can replace this code with that, and that reduces it down. Again, nothing against the developer directly, just reduction of code, and the more we can reduce down, the smaller the mods get, the easier they're maintained, update, control, and work on. So yeah, anyways, I'll end it there, and thank you guys for stopping by, and we'll try to get a couple more videos out. We may end up doing, again, what we did with last week. So last week there wasn't an update video, so this next coming week there might not be another one as well, because this one was 3 mods we were talking about. If it turns out to do the same way, I probably won't make an update video.